guys. Welcome back to Rts Share Tea, where respiratory therapists live out loud. With me, your host, Linda Frost, the Asthma Lady. Yes, welcome everybody. Welcome to anybody new. As you can see, I'm very festive today. We in the holiday spirit, and I have a gift for you guys. So I have another guest co-host here today, and this one is going to be amazing. Now, a lot of you guys have been reaching out to me, asking me how to start your own chronic disease management program or your own asthma self-management program. And we talking about going the grant route to secure funding. And today I have a premium subject matter expert, Mr. Tony Divittis. So before I let him do his thing, I'm going to read to you his accolades, and hopefully I don't mess it up. Right. So Tony started his career in research and worked on a number of federally funded mental health and AIDS prevention research projects. In 1991, he began his work in Woodhall Medical Center on grant-funded AIDS prevention projects in shelters as the trainer. From there, he worked for the AIDS Center program as the data and grant manager. Over the 27 years, he's worked at Woodhall and have worn many hats, as we usually do, including faculty research coordinator, grants manager, strategic planning, public affairs, and finally, as the associate executive director for planning and public affairs. So throughout those positions, he's worked closely with grant-funded programming, securing funds for AIDS, asthma, women's health, breast cancer, capital projects, adolescent pregnancy prevention, tobacco cessation, and many more. Tony Divittis has secured more than $150 million in federal, state, municipal, and foundational funding. That is Tony.
Yes.
So yes, everyone, welcome Tony Divittis. Yay!
Hi, everybody.
So happy, Tony, to have you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you on Rts Share Tea, sharing your knowledge, which is a lot. So, Tony, okay, so I know you. We've worked together for some years.
Many years.
Right, right, all right. And it hasn't been the same since you left. But how did you, reading your bio and everything, how did you start? Like, what made you say, okay, this is something I want to do for institutions like the hospitals and everything, in the grant writing and all that stuff?
Well, basically, I started in research, and research is all grant funded. Yeah. So once you start the project, you are working toward maintaining your funding from period to period. So basically, it's all hands on deck. Because I was the best in math on the team, they gave me the budget. And also, I had a good background in methods, so I always wrote the methods section. And then over the course of time, I was assigned more and more things to write because I like to write.
That is a plus.
When I got to Woodhall, I started as the trainer on the shelter project. And while I was there, our director, Peter LaCour, got an opportunity to apply for a $150,000 grant for an education program. Nice. And basically said, who wants to do this? And nobody did. And I said to myself, well, how hard can this be? Which has gotten me in more trouble than not. But basically, I was handed an 80-page guidance and said, go write a grant. And one of the key things in grant writing is you have to be able to follow directions.
Right. Yes.
And basically,
to a T.
Oh, yes. If they say you have 150 words for the abstract, you have at most 150. At 151, they return.
They're not even looking at it. Yeah.
And then I did well with that, and more grant opportunities came. But there's sort of a mindset that you have to successfully get a grant. Okay. Basically, in a grant application, the funder wants to know, why is your organization the best equipped to create a program and to see it through? They don't know anything about you. So one of the big things you need to do is you need to be able to sell yourself as the most qualified applicant. And everyone I know who has succeeded truly believes their organization is the very best
that can do it.
this project. And as you know, Woodhull was the very best in a lot of areas.
Right. You had to juggle.
And I'm not kidding. We actually won an application where it was down to two organizations, the Harvard Dental School and Woodhull Medical Center's Department of Dentistry and Maxillofacial Surgery. And we won. And we won because Dr. Stachel, who at the time was the head of the dental program that we were working with, literally said, there's no reason why we are not as good as Harvard. We can do the same programming. We can do this, this, and this, put the thing together. And we won the award.
Nice. You know.
So,
and we have people like you who is confident. And like you said, you like to write, follow directions, get the grant, go get it.
Now, there's a lot you can do to prepare for this. One of the things, and in addition to knowing yourself as an organization, you need to know the community you're serving. Okay.
Needs assessment.
Every grant application has a section called Statement of Need. To have a successful one, you really need to know what your community needs.
Exactly.
And now's the time to start gathering that information before there's an application available.
Right.
Because the one thing that is always true is you will never have as much time as you want to have to complete an application.
Yes.
The state sometimes gives you 2 weeks.
Ridiculous.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
But you know what? If you want the money, you do the work.
You do it.
In prep for this, you need to know the demographics of the community. You need to know who you're serving. Start with that. What is your geographic area? You can break that down in many different ways. And there are all kinds of sources where you can find background information. The New York City Department of Health has a community.
Yes, like the history, all the data for the community.
It's by borough.
I always tell people start there.
Exactly. And it'll tell you what the disease states are.
High risk areas.
Where you are. The incidence of asthma, of AIDS, premature death, vaccination rates. All of this information is there and tells you about the health of your community and their health-seeking behaviors. Other places where you really will get good information is the Census Department. Their American Fact Finder page will break down by zip code.
Nice.
Things such as race, ethnicity, housing status, availability of housing, insurance status, all of this information that you can gather to start putting together a narrative of the need of your community.
Nice.
If you do that, you'll have all that ready in different sections in a computer file. So when the application comes, you are not starting from scratch. You are now pulling from your own database.
I appreciate you, Tony, because a lot of my, even after you left, those tips that you gave, those were the ways that I was even able to help others navigate through the grant, just going through that flow, because I remember all that stuff. You would give you like the bones, and then you would like create all the narratives for us. So
Yes.
amazing, good stuff. And we're speaking the same language, because I would, every time I would speak, I would say start with the Department of Health, go to these resources. The work is already done for you in that aspect. Don't start from scratch. Like, it's right there.
Now,
Tony, so okay, so in this role, what would you say? What were your biggest challenges writing for grants for the hospital institutions?
oh, some of the
If
biggest
any.
challenges. Oh no, there were.
Okay.
A lot of it had to do like internally. You had to win over the different departments of your organization
Yes.
before you apply for a grant, because
Yeah.
you need to remember
Who's going to do
the
it?
grant is not free money.
Yeah. Who's
There
going to do the
is
work?
there is an expense to getting the money, there's an expense to administering the money,
Mm-hmm.
and there is an impact on your organization. And you have to make sure that you are not creating burden for the organization. So, what I always like to do at the beginning of the application process, when someone said, "Hey, we would like to go for this," is to call all of the people to the table who needed to have a voice. And that included finance, administration, the departments who will be executing the grant, and the ancillary departments. Like, for example, if this is something like the adolescent pregnancy prevention grant, great. People with the peer educators were all on board. Nursing was another story. So we needed to have nursing understand what we were going to do and how that was not going to adversely impact their work before we even had a chance of implementing a program. So get all that out as soon as you possibly can, because you're going to need it. And the other part was, some people had some egos. They know who they are, but they wanted to read the thing, and they said, we're going to have to give me X amount of time, which we didn't have for them to read it. But you do what you can, and you negotiate down the road. And the other thing, and I should have said this at the beginning, who is eligible for a grant is very important. Funders do not, in general, support individuals.
Right.
They support organizations.
Right.
And they like an organization that has a track record. If you don't have a track record, it's not the end of the world. You can start small and build one. Like maybe get a smaller foundation grant to get a little history. Or if you really feel that you want to go for a larger grant, get yourself a partner. And actually, funders like that. They don't like the idea that, you have this really wonderful program that this other organization has been doing for 5 years. You need to show how what you're doing is unique and not duplicating.
Right. Exactly the same thing. Okay. Yes. I mean, these are all, and they are challenges. Yes, because I was a part of all that too. I remember the grant where the state wanted like this huge collaborative, and we had to figure it out quick. Like, okay, like who can we collaborate with? And
actually, what's interesting in the history of the asthma grant, the very first application, we had a couple people on this, Joanne Mantell and I were the primary writers. We contacted every organization that dealt with asthma and brought them all together and basically got them to agree why Woodhull should be the lead applicant. So we were not competing with everyone, and we showed cooperation. And that was the beginning of the first asthma coalition.
Right.
In North Brooklyn.
Yes, the North Brooklyn Asthma Action Alliance.
And that was born out of making sure that we are not duplicating effort, because nobody wants to fund that.
Right. No, good stuff, Tony. I appreciate that. So, all right, so let's say you already said a good amount of the challenges, where to start, I'm glad you mentioned, because I've had a few episodes back, I was speaking on what somebody would need to do to cater to their community. And the first thing was they had to know the community. So they couldn't just make assumptions. They had to do a needs
Right.
assessment and come up with that statement of need. And I'm glad you said that. So we're speaking the same language. So I'm very happy about that. And so, all right. So now we have our needs assessment. We have our numbers. We see, how do we start? Where do we start? Where do we go? What do we do?
Well, it depends on what you're applying for. If you're applying to create a program or to address a specific need, all right. So, for instance, you want funding in order to create an asthma intervention program that uses peer educators
Right.
in the school. Okay, so you need to develop the program. What are we going to train the peers? How are you going to identify them? As detailed as possible, because that is your work plan. Second, you need strong partnerships with at least one school. Because, how to put this? My mentor in graduate school said, if you're doing a project, you need to know two things. What are you going to do, and who are you going to do it to?
Right.
And the same thing applies to a grant. What are you going to do? So we're going to address asthma because we're going to create asthma buddies who are going to work out of the school-based health center, providing one-on-one counseling with children with out of control asthma, which you will define as children who have one or more sick days due to uncontrolled asthma. They will be assigned a buddy. And then what are they going to do? Then you create what that program is going to be. It's, well, you know what that part is, because I'm not okay. You got that part together. You then get a letter of support from the school.
Right. Okay.
And from whoever's in charge of the school nurse or the clinic.
A letter of support.
Right. And you also have, before you have written a word, you have already met with the principal, you've met with the head of the school-based health center, the parent-teacher organization, and they are all on board. In fact, if you have them as a group, you might take that opportunity to find out what some of their greatest needs have been with the management of asthma in their school, because that will even more so show your knowledge of what's going on in that subset of the larger community, the school group. And to be able to, I don't know, bring that extra life to your application is greatly appreciated by the reader. You're going to need, if you're going for any federal grant, all federal grants are done online through grants.gov. You need a DUNS number. That's a Dun and Bradstreet number. And if your organization doesn't have one, you need to apply for it.
Okay. So we're going to repeat that again. So if the organization wants to go for a federal grant, they need a DUNS number. So they need to register for a DUNS number.
And be sure your DUNS number is up to date. We're putting in an application for $850,000 in federal funding that had an honest to God deadline. You miss it, you lose.
Right.
And we went to submit the application and our DUNS number had expired.
Nightmare.
So calling central office, they finally got everything up and running. And at the 11th hour, we managed to get our application submitted.
That's a nightmare. I mean, just the pressure of getting those things in on time is, and not and to not even remember something like that. It's insane. And that's why I mention things like that, because I know myself with just a little experience. I'm not even as an expert as you are in the grant world, but I know you need your DUNS number, you need to be registered, and all these things need to be set in place even before you even think about putting that application, because it is an oversight that can, like you just mentioned in your story.
Tax ID number.
Which one now? Oh, yes. EIN.
Part of every application.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In some New York State applications, you need to have a New York State charities number.
Okay. I didn't even know that.
Before you apply. For some cases, you may not be eligible to apply to every organization, at least not in the beginning.
Okay.
That's okay. As you move on, you become eligible for more and more stuff.
Wow. Okay. So those are the main things that they need to start. Okay.
Do not
I'm sorry, Tony. I can't hear. I think I lost you a little bit.
Encouraged. If your application is not funded, that happens. You will many times you will say you were rated, which means your application was good, but because of funding constraints, they could not fund you at this time. However, every organization that funds gives you an opportunity to ask for a review. So if you weren't funded, reach out to the organization and set up a meeting, and they will go through and tell you the strengths and the weaknesses of your application. Do it. It enables you to learn from the experience.
Right. And for me personally, that has happened to me as well. I've applied for a grant. I don't remember, a while ago. This was like after you left, and that's what I would say happened. Like they graded us, and they told us where it was strong, and it was like, here, wasn't too, they had questions. And then from there, it was just like, okay, you know what? I learned from the experience. So now I know. That's why I can even contribute to having a conversation with you. So yeah, we've learned a lot. Well, Tony, thank you so much for that. I mean, and that alone is a plethora of help, because a lot of people just don't know where to start. So just knowing that, where to start. And so what advice would you give anybody that wants to start to be a grant writer? Let's just say, like, they're transitioning, they want to get in this route. What would you tell them? How to start?
If you've never done this before, there are many organizations that will do great grant writing workshops.
I always tell people, invest in themselves. If this is something you want to do, volunteer, go to workshops, and, shadow someone else that does it, get a mentor or something like this. And you will get on that path. So
different universities have certificate programs
that too.
That include grant writing in terms of things like charity management, development. You can find a class there.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for that, Tony. And so, Tony, this is your time to plug anything that you're doing new. Let us know. If we have a new year coming, do you have anything going on with you new? Anything you want to plug? Here's your chance.
It's just that right now I am the management consultant on a project in Brooklyn, and we're trying to address the issues of racial disparities in healthcare, and that's exciting. And I'm returning to culinary school to finish my certificate in pastry.
Look at Tony. He's out here making the dishes. Look at you, Tony, enjoying partially your retirement. I want to be you when I grow up. But I just wanted to mention also that Tony will be on our team on Nose Health ED LLC as our grant writing consultant. Yay! I'm so happy to have Tony working with me again. And we are a great team. So I'm going to put like a link in the description of this video where to reach us if you are looking for help in this area. As you can see, we know what we're talking about. So we know the challenges. We know how to start. So you can hit us up. And so, guys, well, thank you so much for being here with us. I just want to thank Tony. Tony, do you have anything you want to say? You want to add?
Nope, just thank you. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Tony, thank you so much for being my guest co-host here on Rts Share Tea. And before we go, guys, don't forget that we are here on Google Podcasts and Spotify every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and we also on YouTube every Thursday. And so thank you so much, guys, for the support. And remember, guys, to invest in yourself and to only compete with yesterday's version of you. All right, everyone. Happy holidays. See you. I might see you before the new year. But, all right, guys. Bye.